Good to see you, Chief. Look at those squares. You have big arms. I'll give you my email. You send me yours. I'll send you the information. I've always been your name. That's right.
I think we're ready. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this ceremony honoring Commander Bob Hyde on the occasion of his retirement from the United States Navy. Today, Bob is closing out a military career spanning 22 years of dedicated service. Presiding over today's ceremony is Captain Jay Hennessy, Commander of Naval Special Warfare Center in Coronado, California. I'd like to ask that all guests please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the singing of the national anthem, followed by the invocation. Military guests may remain uncovered as the official party will render honors. Bosun, post aside, boys.
Side boys cover. 2. Right face. Forward mark. Side boys pull. Left right face.
Naval Special Warfare Center arriving. Commander, United States Navy, arriving. Miss Betty Barnes will now sing the national anthem. The official party will render honors for the assembly.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Awesome job, Eddie. Awesome job. Father Jim Anger, pastor of St. Patrick's Catholic Church, will now deliver the invocation.
Dear Heavenly Father, we are in your loving presence with deep gratitude for the many years of faithful and dedicated service given by our dear friend Commander Robert Hyde. We thank you for the long-term contributions he has made in the execution of his daily tasks and responsibilities, in his loyalty to the United States Navy, and in the sharing of his knowledge and wisdom with others. Commander Robert Hyde has been dedicated to the Navy's core values of honor, courage, and commitment to build the foundation of trust and leadership upon which strength is based and victory is achieved. He is a person of great honor, always caring for others and doing what was difficult because he knew it was right and correct. As a person of courage, he has been a role model for others. He is and has been committed to the Navy, his shipmates, his family and friends, to his responsibilities, and to all of us. We pray and ask God's continued blessings upon him, his loving family and friends, upon the United States Navy, upon all those serving in our military for peace throughout and around the world. Today we leave him with a blessing from the book of Matthew. Well done, good and faithful servant. Come, share your master's joy. We end our prayer thankful for what has been and grateful for what is yet to be. We also trust God's promise, the promise of the Lord who said, "Know that I am with you always." Amen.
Thank you, Father Jim. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Post aside, boys.
Side boys, left, right, face, forward, march. Side boys, forward, right, face.
Good afternoon, Mr. Lawless, Mr. Boiselle, Captain Hennessy, members of the Hyde Jubal family, community leaders, soldiers, sailors, airmen and Marines from SOCOM and CENTCOM, and dear friends. I'd like to welcome all of you to this special occasion marking the retirement of Bob Hyde. We are here this afternoon to celebrate his final stage of his naval career after 22 years of faithful service to our country. I'm Lieutenant Commander Rob Wilkerson, a friend, shipmate of Bob's, and it's my honor to be involved in this ceremony today. Ground rules for today. Number one, have fun. A lot of pomp and circumstance with this, a lot of naval tradition, but this is for Bob, it's also for everyone out in the audience too. So, have fun today. Rule number two, take pictures. That's why you have your cell phones with you. Snap a picture, you're gonna remember that. This is gonna go by quick for Bob and everybody else out there, so please take pictures. Rule three, have fun, okay? So, you guys wanna hug your dad today? Feel free to go do that, okay? Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce the guest speaker for today's ceremony. Captain Jay Hennessy. Captain Hennessy is a graduate of Villanova University, where he had him and Bob were classmates in the Naval ROTC program. Over the years, their families have remained close and shared some duty stations. Captain Hennessy recently assumed command of Naval Special Warfare Center in Coronado, California. The center runs much of the Naval Special Warfare training, including the famous SEAL training. Captain Hennessy has commanded units at all levels, completing numerous deployments throughout the Western Pacific, Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. In addition to his operational tours, he has also served at U.S. Special Operations Command, the Naval Special War Basic Training Command, and most recently, the Naval Special Warfare Command Headquarters. Captain Hennessy.
So I'll be honest, I've never actually heard my bio read, which kind of strikes me as it really should just say he didn't quit, right? So he was in for 23 years, and job after job they had to find a new place for him. It's about the significance I see. But thank you. Before I start today, I'd like to give a little scene setter to kind of shape how I got involved with this. So it was August 8th, and I got an email, and it read more or less, "Hey Jay, how's San Diego? How's the family doing?" Like, okay, nice pleasantries, great hearing from Bob. Next line, "My retirement date is October. My final day in the Navy is 1 January. Well, that's strange. You went straight to business. It's time for me to start planning my ceremony. And there it is. There's the hook. So I'm like, okay, I'll be honest, euphoria is kind of too strong of a word, but I was excited. Like, hey, Bob's reaching out to me. I'm going to get some type of offer. This is good. I'm excited. So the next line says, "Don't go getting a bigger head, if that's possible." Emocon smiley face. As if like, whatever you say, you put the emocon there, it's all good. I got it. So I get the emocon smiley face, and then I'm ready to like launch back, but I don't. I take the high road. So I write back, "Hey Bob, I'd be honored. Really, you've had a long career. I've got to know you and your family. I really am honored. I've never done the retirement thing before, so just kind of spell out what the expectations are, and I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to fly cross country, while I'm in command. Maybe event do this for you." Okay? Short little email. I get back. "No worries. I'll make this sailor proof." So what he's really saying is, you're an egomaniac, and you're not smart enough to figure this out on your own, so I'm going to dumb it down for you. And that's what he did. He sends me a crayon drawing of what we're going to do. We go on and on. Anyway, so that's kind of how I got roped in this. But it is my honor to be here. It is my honor to speak on Bob's behalf. Before I do begin my remarks, I did want to just kind of welcome everyone that's here. Deb, 19 years. You're a saint. I don't know how you did. Good on you, kiddos. And whenever I see you, I want to get a high five. He said have fun. I'm coming down for a high five. Right down the line. High five, high five, high five. And I got a question for you guys. Did you guys bring candy? You know what? Let's do some candy. There's a time-honored tradition in the Navy. Actually, when you're presiding in a retirement, you were actually granted crazy uncle status. It's a weird tradition, but it's a time-honored one. And so Skittles, I like to get other kids in my own hopped up on sugar. So either way, kids, retirement ceremony. Thanks for that, Jay. It's my pleasure. Mom and Dad, Bob and Nancy coming down from Connecticut. Thank you very much. Stan and Louise, thank you very much. The thing I wanted to mention, obviously, not that was everyone else, but to you, is Stan and Louise celebrated their 70th wedding anniversary last week. I'll be honest, I really only threw it out there because I didn't plan on getting much applause, and this is one extra. So it's great having you. Janice, sorry Bill can't be here. I think if we had a co-pilot, maybe we would have started a little bit quicker. I don't know. No big deal. Hey, we're happy to have you. This is a problem when you advertise, hey, come to Surf's Edge. She literally went to Surf's Edge. It's okay. Boys, fantastic seeing you again. Last time you guys were like, tall. Did you guys bring candy? We're going to get some. See what you guys got catched up. Andy and Andy, Two great friends, Andy Blank on lead egg, and two great friends from college. So glad you guys can make it here today. This is a big deal. And it was good to get Bob out before the ceremony, get a little warmed up. And a beer or two. So we had a little extra time today, and a couple people came up to me like, oh, you're the guest speaker, that's pretty cool. What's your relationship? What's the justification for you speaking? And I'll be honest, it was the first time I thought of it. I'm like, I actually don't know why Bob's having me speak. It's been a while, I mean, we've been friends. So I said, I think it's because of the similarities we have, you know. So Bob is from Connecticut, I'm from Connecticut. Bob's tall and goofy. Bob is a workout fanatic. I used to work out. Bob has 4 wonderful kids. I have 4 wonderful kids. Bob has a beautiful, wonderful bride, Deb, who loves him very much. Bob has a wonderful, beautiful bride, Deb, that loves me very much. It was a bumpy start. But we're getting there. John Jensen said that. But we literally just had a conversation back there, and then I thought about, like, you know, I wonder if that's really it, or I wonder if there's something more to it. And I'm like, you know what, it hit me. I'm like, he played me one last time. So it's about competition with Bob. Guys, no. See some fellow runners in that area. So in 2007, Bob calls me. I was living in Hyde Park. There's a 5K. His last name is Hyde. It all worked out. Hey, let's do this 5K. Okay. I don't really know how fast he runs, but when 2 men are doing a race that's measured, there's a winner and a loser. That's who the loser was. He crushed it. I mean, I was crushed. So we finished, and I'm like, you know, I don't know, 10 minutes or something. I go back to the house, and I'm like, my wife she's like, hey, so how was it? Beat me. Well, you weren't really facing each other. I'm like, honey, do you know how this works? 2 men running. But Bob, being good-natured as he is, he wanted me to feel better about it. So for the duration of my tour, he invited me to every race within a 50-mile radius so they can continue that public humiliation. Yeah, that's fine. But that wasn't enough. No, he had also invited me to the morning track workouts. That's a 5 a.m. wake up, show up on the track, and get your behind handed to you by him every time. So I know some of you ladies are thinking right now, well, it seems like a pretty simple problem. If he invites you, just say no. Again, ladies, that's not how men work. We have unrealistic expectations of ourselves, right, guys? We think this is the day that I'm going to beat Bob every day. And I know it's a definition of insanity. Snowball's chance in hell. To men, that's actually worth betting on. Like, what do we got? Snowball's chance in hell. Okay, maybe I'll take that. So what does that have to do with this? Well, at the time, I had 3 children and 1 on the way. Bob and Deb only had 2. Well, we know how that one turned out. Right? Phone call, ding ding. Ava, phone call, ding ding. Taylor and Charlotte. For years, every time the phone rang and it was Bob or Deb, we thought it was them telling us she's pregnant again. Still, on the email I got here, I'm like, maybe they adopted her. So again, what does it have to do with competition? It took me to getting out here to thinking about it. Career naval officer, 23 years in counting. Bob, nope. Career naval officer, 22 years. Boom! Done! Out! The icing on the cake is he flies me here to go talk about it. The final insult, like, I meet you one last time. That wasn't what I was preparing to speak. What I was preparing to tell you was, as I was given the honor to come down and speak on Bob's behalf, I reached out to Deb, and I reached out to some friends, and I reached out to some colleagues and said, hey, tell me anything you remember about Bob, or funny stories, and a couple of things jumped out. And I'm going to ask the kids to come up and help me with this one, if you guys don't mind. And each take one of the posters. Don't let your dad see it, and don't let anybody else see it. Now, this may or may not work. I don't know. This is kind of, we're freestyling here, okay? So one of the things that jumped out was routine. Routine, routine, routine. So Bob, what is one of the staples you eat for breakfast? Oatmeal. Oatmeal. Ding, 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 ding. Who's got oatmeal? Bob, what is the routine you have for lunch? What is your lunch routine? My office mates can probably even tell you. Let's hear it. Yogurt. Ding, ding, ding. Apple. Ding, 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 ding. And what's the last one? Turkey sandwich. He's a man of routine, folks. He's a man of routine. Now, there's one other routine that everyone knows Bob does, but he only has 4 kids, so I didn't want to do like slave labor, child labor camp to make him overproduce. So, Bob, what is the thing you do every morning? Run. Dun, dun, dun! I want everybody to think I was Nostradamus. I had it all figured out. So, as you kind of pull apart the routine, what you really realize is those are the key attributes that make Bob who he is. Right? It's the structure, it's the discipline, the things that make him an effective leader, a great dad, and a great friend. So I tease him about being OCD, but in reality, I'm like, God, he's got it figured out. And it actually reminded me of a really good book. I don't know if anybody's read Power of Habit. It's a great book. I recommend it. And I wanted to give Bob just a little token for retirement. So there it is, Power of Habit. You probably don't need it since you got all right. So the other common theme that came up, I don't really know how to categorize it. I can't spell je ne sais quoi, but it was the classic Bob story. So everybody that's worked with Bob knows classic Bob stories to me are like all that exuberance, all that type A personality, all that competition, all that charismatic stuff bubbled into just every time you tell me a story, I'm like, of course that happened to you. Of course that happened to you. And some folks shared some stories, and Andy Dagan shared a couple. They did a backpacking trip to Europe before the Navy. And one of the stories, and if this isn't completely right, just go with it. They're standing outside the Heineken brewery, and Bob, in his typical voice, Bob talking loudly, hey, would it be cool if we met someone we knew? And with that, the guy in front of them turns around and says, I recognize that voice. It's Bob Hyde. Like, who does that happen to? Right? What are the chances for that to happen to Bob? 100%. So later in the trip, they bump into someone, and Bob miraculously chats the guy up. The guy's very talkative apparently. And come to find out, hey, they just graduated college. Hey, I'm doing the Navy, so am I. Hey, I'm going to be a surface warfare officer, so am I. Hey, I'm going to do, they end up in Newport together. What are the chances of that? For Bob, 100%. So it made me think, and I don't know if this is true, Deb, but my guess is every time Bob comes back from the trip, or he's been on an airplane, he's like, I sat next to the most talkative person in the world. They told me the whole life story. It's not them, Bob. That's really what makes Bob the guy we love, right? I mean, that's what makes the guy you want. You want him as a leader. You want him as a friend. You want him as a co-worker, a father, a husband, a son, all that. I'm way beyond my price there. Seem to have lost track at the moment. So the 2 other classic parts of Bob I want to share were really, and I'm not going to go deep on this stuff, so don't worry, but the relationship with Deb. I mean, he finds this great lady, sticks with her for 19 years, 4 kids, Navy, and he starts it off, first date, late October, right? Next phone call she gets is a month later when he asks her to go turn the heat on in this house. Like, who does that, Bob? And yet, yeah, she went and did it. She stuck with him. You should be a stock picker. How did you do that? And the stories go on and on with Deb. I mean, poor Deb had to learn that Bob wasn't actually staying in Newport, Rhode Island. He was actually going to start his naval career somewhere else. And she had to hear it on a night drinking, but not from Bob, from his friends. Hey, so what do you think about Bob's new tour? What new tour? Yeah, we're all shipping off. Shipping off? What's that mean? But even his career in the Navy, like when I read the first ship, so he started his career in the Navy, he goes to Newport, but his first duty station is a ship on a lake, right? It's a great lake, but who starts a naval career on a lake? And then he bounced, he goes up to San Diego, he goes to Jacksonville, heads over to Italy. And you read about the stories they have in Italy, you're just like, can you make this up? Visiting country, just a wonderful, wonderful time in Italy. The stories of them how to live in the local populace, realizing that You know, you can call, there's the right way to go, and then there's giving bribes to all the vendors to get your power hooked up and cable and all that. And I'm convinced, as he's telling the story about how crazy it was living in Italy, there's an entire village in Italy that still talks about, "You remember that tall, goofy guy? He kind of ran the whole town, he knew everybody. Didn't speak a lick of Italian, but he ran the whole town." Good, classic Bob. That's what I think. So, you know, in the Navy, they say we're supposed to make very kind of succinct wrap-up remarks, so I'll keep it short. Get everyone on the phone. I'm not sure why you asked me to be here, but I'll tell you, I'm really honored, and I think you've been a great friend, and I look forward to our families and us staying in touch. I can't read my handwriting. So that was the part to Bob. To Deb, all I can say is, God bless you. Twice. Like, wow. And at the same time, you're a lucky baby. For kids, you should be very proud of your dad. He's had a great career. You know he's a great dad. He's going to do great things where he goes. It all starts at home. And, you know, great men don't develop overnight. It all starts with mom and dad at home. So thank you both. Thank you very much.
Well, you can all stay standing, because that's next. Captain Hennessy will now present Commander Hyde's Retirement Award. And you're already all. Military member, attention to award. Legion of Merit, Commander Robert H. Hyde, United States Navy. Commander Hyde distinguished himself by exceptionally meritorious service as Director, Strategic Resourcing, Office of Resource Management, United States Special Operations Command, MacDill Air Force Base, Florida, from 1 February 2013 to 21 October 2015. During this period, Commander Hyde's outstanding vision, leadership, and managerial skills were pivotal in the execution of 3 successful program objective memorandums, aligning resources with the Theater Special Operations Command, TSOC, to firmly establish the vision for the commander, USOCOM, as the resource and capability sponsor for the Chief of Staff. He advocated for 8 command directorates, 7 TSOCs, and 2 headquarter operational planning teams in the development of a $2.6 billion future years defense program for 3 annual cycles. This distinctive accomplishment of Commander Hyde culminated a distinguished career in the service of his country and reflects great credit upon him, the United States Special Operations Command, the United States Navy, and the Department of Defense. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Captain Hennessy will now present Commander Hyde with a letter of appreciation from the Commander-in-Chief. For service in the Armed Forces of the United States of America, I extend to you my personal thanks for the sincere appreciation of a grateful nation for your contribution of honorable service to our country. You have helped maintain the security of the nation during a critical time in its history with a devotion to duty and a spirit of sacrifice in keeping with the proud traditions of the military service. Your commitment and dedication have been an inspiration for those who will follow in your footsteps and for all Americans who join me today in saluting you for a job extremely well done. My best wishes to you for happiness and success in the future. Barack Obama, Commander-in-Chief. For the guests in attendance that may not be aware, the tradition of presenting a parting gift to a retired member of our nation's military was born in early British custom. In the days of sail when Britain ruled the seas, it was considered bad luck for a sailor, upon final departure from a ship, to allow his shadow to hit the pier before himself. In order to ensure no such misfortune would befall their shipmate, the crew would construct a gift of the finest timber and place it within it all things that reflected their departing comrades' accomplishments. Only then could the man with the shadow of himself in hand safely depart the ship and go ashore once and for all. This tradition has evolved over many years and has taken hold of all of our military services. Today we are honoring Bob with a wooden paddle reflecting the heritage of the Navy's earliest wooden vessels, his close relationship with the United States Marine Corps and the Amphibious Navy, and most recently as a member of the Special Operations community. Today, parting gifts are distinctive representations of the individual's unique contribution to our nation's safety and security. Major Will Glazier, United States Marine Corps retired, will now present Commander Hyde with his parting gift.
Bang.
We know Bob's going to be in the mayor's office one day. And the crew behind him. So we want to present him with a paddle so that we make sure that he never finds himself up a creek without one. Bob, you've had hundreds of people that you either work with or work for you. And to Stacy, Dave, and Matt, we feel it an honor that we're the ones who get to present this retirement gift. For that, let's wish you.
Thanks. Will is also presenting a flag that is cased from the same timber as the paddle. This flag was flown above Villanova University Naval ROTC building, John Berry Hall, on the first day of October 2015, the anniversary of Bob's entry into active duty. Fittingly, this flag was also flown this morning, the 21st day of October 2015, at headquarters USOCOM, to commemorate Bob's last day on active duty.
I worked with Bob, what, 2 years, I guess?
With?
The hardest I've worked for him was the 2 hours of putting this flag.
As you're all aware, families and spouses are the foundation that any military success is built upon. Our spouses and families endure lengthy separations and provide support unique to the profession of arms. More than any other, the military spouse deserves tremendous respect for sharing the burden carried by our uniformed members without the inherent benefits of shipmates or teammates, often with youngsters to rear. 4 of them down there. Today we pause to recognize Debbie for her support to our nation. Captain Hennessy will now present a certificate of appreciation to Debbie. Certificate of appreciation. By the authority vested in me, it is my pleasure to express the grateful appreciation of the United States Navy to Deborah Marie Hyde for your unselfish, faithful, and devoted service during your spouse's naval career. Your unfailing support and understanding helped to make possible your spouse's lasting contribution to the nation. Signed, Kent A. Perro, Captain, United States Navy. Ladies and gentlemen, Commander Bob Hyde.
Good warm-up act, Jay. Wow, that's a tough act to follow. And now I realize why Jay was winking at me, because I think he's thinking he won because he's done. He no longer has to be on speak today. So it's my turn. And before I launch into anything, Jay, I do want to deeply and sincerely thank you for making the trip. You know exactly why I asked you to come. I know that despite the humor, you know, our friendship goes very, very deeply. Not only between us, but with the families as well. So Jay did, in fact, take time from his command out in Coronado, away from Jess and his 4 kids, you know, to come out here and honor me with his presence and humor me with his wit today. So appreciate that, Jay. Thanks so much. The Navy, it's not just a job, it's an adventure. Right? That's kind of what I remember growing up in the 70s and 80s, the commercials, the jingles, it really stuck in my mind. And I think that, coupled with a kid who just could never get enough of the water. I was always the first kid in and the last kid out of the pool, the beach, the ocean, whatever it was, constantly. I just had an affinity for the water. So it was probably no surprise to anybody, you know, mom and dad included, that, you know, by the time the fall of 1989 rolled around, I found myself on the campus of Villanova University enrolled in the Navy ROTC program. And I immediately made some very, very lasting and deep friendships, Jay being one of those good buddies, and then my two other buddies here joining us today, Andy Degnan coming down from Philadelphia, and Andy Blankel coming down from Washington, D.C. Those guys were my first peeps in the Navy, and we still stayed pretty tight. I appreciate you guys coming down. And that was the beginning. And here we are, kind of towards the end, 22 years later, and a whole lot happens in between that adventure piece. It was a whole lot of fun. I was very fortunate to be on a number of ships, a variety of ships like Jake talked about, and I was on them on both coasts. I was on ships on the West Coast, which were kind of fun because they obviously deploy towards the west. They go out through Hawaii, out to the Pacific Rim, and on through places like Hong Kong, Singapore, Thailand, even as far into the Indian Ocean as the Seychelles Island. And then unfortunately, due to usually calls in the Gulf, so they finished that transit and ended up in the Arabian Gulf. But other ship on the East Coast, similar kind of transiting. You go across the Atlantic, you go through the Straits of Gibraltar, you go through the Mediterranean, make some stops there, go through the Red Sea, down around the Horn of Africa, end up in the Gulf. So I mean, really, it's kind of an ability to see the world just like they advertise. It's not just a job; it is an adventure. And in between, there was a ship in Italy. So I got to see, a whole bunch of the Mediterranean, left the Med, went up to Dublin. Debbie met me with Nathan, actually, months old, met in Dublin with the ship. And then on the other side, the east side, we actually went through the Bosphorus, the Dardanelles Straits, and on up into the Black Sea. So pretty fun stuff. So I think the Navy, they held up their end of the deal, right? I mean, it was definitely an adventure. And ironically, the Navy also gets credit for my ride. Way back when, it's kind of funny. The first place I go is Newport Island for some training, and lo and behold, what happens? I meet this wonderful young woman, Debbie, and we date, and then 2 years later, we're married. And the reason there's such a hook there, nexus with the Navy, is because not only was it my first duty assignment, but Debbie also worked as a government civilian for the Naval Undersea Warfare Center. So there's that whole kind of Navy connection there. So again, the Navy really did its part in establishing an adventure for me. So it was a lot of fun. But you go to all those places for a reason. Yeah, there's a lot of fun, but there's obviously an element of work involved and all that. And before I kind of touch a bit more on that, I do want to say that in the Navy, there's a couple things that are always going to resonate with me. When I'm older in life, people say, "Hey, what do you remember about the Navy?" And obviously, first and foremost, it's the people, and specifically, it's the sailors. It are those sailors that really make the Navy go, they make the ships go, they make the airplanes fly, they make the subs dive. They do all of that work. And it probably bears just kind of repeating for the audience here today that, my background is obviously on ships. And once a ship is placed into commission, that ship is active and operational 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, year after year after year. It's constant. And granted, when the ship is in port, the routine is a little bit less, but it's still fully manned. All those services like electricity and lights and air conditioning and heating and food preparation, all that, it has to happen. Again, 24/7, 365, year after year. And then you take that vessel and you put it out to sea, and it's not only that, but it's everything else, include operations on top of it. It just doesn't stop. So there's always somebody, some crew member, some sailor, making it happen. And just like in your home, when your toilet breaks or your sink drains or something doesn't quite work right, that happens on ships all the time. But there's nobody to call. There's no technician, there's no repairman. It's the sailors who own and run that ship that have to make the repair, that have to fix the diesel engine because they don't have electrical power, that have to rework the combat system because our air search radar is not detecting the way it ought to, that have to go fight the fire in the after steering and the flammable liquid room because there is a fire, it's got to be fought. I mean, these guys do it day in and day out. So the takeaway of all that is United States Navy sailors, our sailors, your sailors, every day around the world, on watch, doing the job, never quit, never stop, never complain, and they have a resilience to them that is unmatched. You know, we've got a couple of them here in the back today, and those are the guys that definitely remember. So to my two sailors that are back there, thank you guys so much, and you represent the fleet today, for which I'm thankful. And then the other piece I mentioned, you know, traveling around the world doing all these things, it's tied to operations. So, you know, at the end of the day, I asked myself, okay, well, why do we go to these places and do these things? Well, kind of rewind a little bit, you grow up and you read history. You know, guys like me specifically read about military history. Then you go to war college and you read about kind of like maritime security, and you start to get this notion of like what a Navy's supposed to do, what it's supposed to provide. But it's kind of esoteric, it's kind of hard. It's like, really? Just a bunch of ships, airplanes, SEALs going around doing their thing? They provide all of that. It's kind of conceptual until you actually go do it. You know, until you're actually, you know, the air defense for the aircraft carrier in the Indian Ocean who's flying combat missions over in Afghanistan. Until you actually are the vessel boarding oil smugglers coming out of the Qasr River in Iraq to ensure that they're in compliance with the United Nations Security Council resolution that they're not supposed to be smuggling and then ultimately selling oil to fuel the Iraqi economy. You know, so you do that kind of stuff. Like, oh, okay, I begin to get this a little bit. And you travel on further down the coast, around the Horn of Africa, East Africa, and you start providing escort for tankers going up and down the east coast of Africa, and you realize, okay, this defense against piracy thing, now I get it. Now I'm seeing the application of policy on the ground. And I can go on in that vein, but the point is, all these places we go are because we're conducting operations. And those operations that we do are really the nexus between, you know, our national policy and our decision makers and an effect that we want to have. And when you just kind of hear about it, it's kind of hard. But when you do it, it all kind of comes, it all kind of makes sense. And I've been honored to be able to participate in those kinds of activities for, you know, a number of years. And I'm very, very thankful. And I'll always remember that, you know, that's the Navy as an institution. That's the strength of it, and that's why it will continue to exist for quite some time. So enough about the Navy and all that. Transitioning into a number of thank yous. There, obviously, Debbie and I are very, very blessed with a large number of people here today, but more importantly than that is who is here. Every single person here today has had an impact on either my life or Debbie's life or the life of my kids in some way. And that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted the family here, I wanted the friends here, I wanted the people here that we are tied to and have had shared experiences with. So I thank each and every one of you. So I'm looking around, every time I see someone, I can think of a story or something that we've done together, a place we've been, a place we're gonna go, etc. So thank you. Thank you all very, very, very much for that and for your attendance today. In the community, Debbie and I have been wonderfully supported, absolutely wonderfully supported. And there's three pillars of support that we constantly rely on here in the community. And first and foremost is obviously our faith. So I thank Father Jim for coming today. Absolutely wonderful, wonderful words, Father. I appreciate that. And Father is also joined today by Deacon Ben Hooks, the deacon over at St. Patrick's. A retired Navy captain, I might add, and his wife Pam. So thanks for coming. That's one of the legs we really rely upon here. The second leg that we rely deeply upon is the Wine Shed. It's a good Christian organization. It's a place where we can help. That helps us kind of raise our children the right way, where we interact with folks that we think help us be good people. And it's a wonderful institution, and it's represented today by a host of people, specifically Val Siktar is here. She's the group vice president at our South Tampa Y branch right here. And there's about 25 people in the audience who I've come to know very, very well through my association with the Y. I'm deeply honored that each and every one of you could be here today. And then the third leg of support is where the kids grow up and where they go to school, which is your neighborhood. So the Ballast Point Elementary School and the Ballast Point neighborhood, which is just a small little slice of South Tampa over there on the water, that's our home. And again, another huge group of people here today that you're our friends, you're our neighbors. You are the village, right? You are the village that allow us to help each other raise our kids. So I appreciate that. And of note, Beth Hastings is here, the vice principal at Dallas Point Elementary School. I want to thank Beth for everything you do there and the way you run the school and help train our kids. So thank you for that. We also have some very distinguished guests here today that really typify the kind of leadership we have here at the Special Operations Command. And both of you gentlemen are not only wonderful leaders, but are wonderful friends and mentors. And Mr. Keith Lawless, the Deputy Director for Intelligence here, and Mr. Jim Boycell, the Deputy Chief of Staff. Again, representative of the kind of quality leadership we have here at SOCOM. Two gentlemen I have learned a tremendous amount from, based on the example that they set. So thank you both for coming. And a special note for Mr. Jim Boycell. I worked for Jim when he was an Army colonel a number of years ago when I first got to SOCOM. And I worked in the J79. We got a big smattering from the J79 here. And you showed me the ropes. You really taught me how a 4-star headquarters works, and were able to kind of get me through some difficult professional times in my development. Hit a few bumps, but you're always there to kind of help smooth things over and give me sage advice. So I appreciate that from then. And then allowed me to come back and I don't know why, but you gave me the keys to the Chief of Staff's checkbook. I'm not sure that was the best decision. Wayne, you may want to check him on that one. But I appreciate the opportunity and the latitude you gave me to work and to continue to grow as an officer under tutelage. So thanks for that, so I appreciate it. We also have with us today a number of community leaders. And some people say, oh, so why did you choose to stay in Tampa? Well, to be honest with you, the community here has embraced, Debbie and I and our family so much that I don't know why we would even entertain leaving. It's been an absolute wonderful experience. And again, significant number of community leaders here, represented primarily by the president and the CEO of Tampa Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Bob Borlak up front, and to include other mentors that I have had. I feel very privileged that both Renee Vaughn, Rolf Arnold, you were able to make it today. You've been really helpful to me in mentoring me and helping me understand what the community is all about here. So I greatly appreciate that. And I think I want to transition to the family. As Jay hit it right on the head. It's about the family, and it's about the friends, and it's about the friendships, and that's what we have here today. So there is no word can be spoken today that really would be enough to say how deeply thankful I am to all of my family members and all the support that they give me kind of over the years. So obviously, Janice, not a sister-in-law, true sister. And Tommy and Jamie, you're not my nephews, you're kind of like my sons. So I appreciate all of the times we've had together. It's been good. It's been really good, and your support has been wonderful. So it's nice that you could attend another military event today, which is fantastic. And then I want to move over to, as Jay mentioned, mother and father-in-law, Stan and Louise. They are members of the greatest generation. They were raised in the Depression era, and Louise obviously supported the war effort at home. Stan has active duty in the Army Air Corps, flying missions in China, Burma, India. Ask him about it, he'll tell you everything you want to know. He'll be happy to wax poetic about China, Burma, India campaigns for some time. But they've been with Debbie and I, from the get-go. We're so fortunate that, when we met and they were in their early and mid-70s, here we are 19 years later, and they're still with us in their early to mid-90s. Obviously, as you can see, extremely healthy. And they participated in our naval career. They came out to San Diego, and we were assigned to the ship out there. And they were, I think, around 72 and 75 or so at the time. And they asked if there was any activities we could do on the weekend. And I said, well, actually, there was, back to Jay's point, there's a 5K I'm thinking about. So what did they say? Let's do it. So they did. So we went downtown, and I ran, and I finished, and I asked Deb, where's your mom and dad? She's like, I don't know. So we had to go back on the course and find them. They were walking around. They were like picking flowers. They were checking everything out. We had a wonderful time. We got to the finish line. Of course, the first question Stan asked is, where's the beer? That was wonderful. And of course, in Italy, Nathan being born, you made the trip over and shared that with us, and having him being baptized on Holy Saturday, absolutely wonderful experience. So you've been with us every step of the way. I couldn't be happier to be your son-in-law. So thank you, Stan, for everything. Greatly appreciate it. So, mom and dad are next. As Jay said, it does start at home. You become who you become based on what you see, what you learn, what you're exposed to. And mom and dad have exposed me to many different things. I've probably made a number of questionable decisions over the years, but they never questioned those questionable decisions. And I think that's really important. They gave me the latitude to succeed, and they certainly gave me the wide latitude to fail. And there were very clearly, bookends to the way they raised me. So I couldn't be more happy, to have Bob and Nancy as my mom and dad. And they too, like Stan and Louise, shared with us every step of the way. On the way over here, we were kind of going through duty stations. Which ones did you go to? And they've been to all of them except for Corpus Christi. Right? So 5 ships, a number of shore commands. They've come to them all, and they've participated in them all. We have this thing called Tiger Cruises in the Navy. You can bring guests, dependents, whatever, on your ship, make a transit. It was at least 2. It might have been 3. Yeah, okay, so we came out and did the ship in San Diego, and they came to Jacksonville, did the ship there. It was so honorary sailors, both tried and true. My mom and dad, I just can't thank you enough for the guidance, support, and the love. So I'll give you a second. And I apologize for that, but I do want to recognize each of my 4 kids. Hey, good morning. What's up? It's right on cue. It's your turn. Sorry I had to wake you up for this. What's your name? And how old are you? All right, little 5-year-old. So I got the kids a little something. I got the kids a little something, and I thought it would be neat if they had a parting gift from the Navy similar to the one I had because of our close relationship, and also as a memento to remember, my service in the Navy as they grew up. So I had a paddle, thanks one too, just like this made for each of the kids. What does that say? Andrew Hyde, that's right. It says, presented to Andrew David Hyde upon my retirement from the United States Navy for being a true shipmate on our voyage and always keeping the faith. Remember to set your course, bury your paddle, and pull. Not because you don't want to be able to creep it out the paddle, but because you can never cross the ocean until you lose sight of the shore. How about that, huh? You want that? Stand up there too. What's your name? How old are you? All right. Would you like to get one of those paddles too? Now this is not to go hit Andrew. This is not a contest. This is something nice for you to hang on to. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. So I got yours white. I didn't think you'd want the blue and the red like the boys, but I think it's very pretty for a little girl. You like that? What's up, Patrick Henry? How you doing? How old are you?
9.
You're 9 years old. Would you like one of the paddles too?
Yeah.
Why?
Is it cool?
They're pretty cool. What are you going to think when you see that paddle? So again, all this wood was cut from the same timber. My paddle, the flag casing in each of these four by a gentleman out in Coronado, who Jay knows, Ferdy Santos. Did a beautiful job on them. That's for you, buddy. I love you. Bosses of elimination, you all know now this is Nathan. He's my oldest, and couldn't be more proud of you, bud. This is something for you as a memento to constantly remember my time in the Navy. I know you do, because you've been around for all this. So thanks, Warren, too. I appreciate it. You're good, buddy. And now I realize I should have given you, Deb, the bigger paddles. So the last thank you is far from the least. My beautiful bride, Debbie. You know, as Jay said, we're 19 years in November, and she's been with me every step of the way. We've been through a lot. We've had some good times. We've had some more challenging times. But we've had a lot of times, which is really ultimately what makes you strong. You know, to do the good stuff and the bad stuff together. I guess what I want everybody here to know, besides obviously loving my wife very deeply, she's my true partner. She's absolutely my true partner in every possible way. And in my transition over the last year or so, I constantly turn to Debbie and ask for advice and question, and she's always got the right answer, constantly. So I asked her, like, do they give you wisdom in like wife school or something like that? Where does that come from? But she does possess a tremendous amount of wisdom, and I am so blessed and honored that you're my wife, and I look forward to many, many more things and successes in our future together. Love you. Run around.
Done?
Sure. Get positive.
Okay. Hey, round of applause for Bob. I will now read Commander Hyde's retirement orders. Guests, please rise. Military members, attention to orders. Bureau of Naval Personnel Order 2255. Your request to be transferred to the retired list was approved by the Secretary of Navy effective 21 October 2015. You will be transferred to the retired list with the grade of Commander pursuant to provision of Title 10, United States Code, Section 6323. When directed by reporting senior, detached from U.S. Special Operations Command and proceed to your home of selection. Regard relieved of all active duty effective at 2400 on the date of detachment. Captain Hennessy will now present Commander Hyde's Certificate of Retirement. Certificate of Retirement. This is to certify that Commander Robert H. Hyde, having served faithfully and honorably, was retired from the United States Navy on the 21st day of October, 2015. Signed, Bill Moran, Vice Admiral Chief of Naval Personnel. You may be seated.
I didn't want to get too far ahead here, man. Sorry.
Bosun, stand by to pipe the side.
Sir. Side boys. Cover. 2. Right face. Forward block.
This order has been passed on naval ships from the 1500s through today. Spanish, French, English, Dutch. Yes, every Navy in the world has used the bosun's call and the side boys to bring aboard or send ashore its officers, visiting officers, and all visiting dignitaries. The side boys would haul on the ropes and raise or lower the boarding platform so officers would not have to climb the rat lines when going ashore or aboard. It was not uncommon for the commanding officer of a ship to order up the jolly boat, a crew of 8 side boys with strong backs, and a bosun to send a retiring officer and shipmate ashore, never to sail on naval ships again. Find the beer. Today, our Navy has given most of the pomp and circumstance, the honors, traditions, and the ceremonies back to history. Time does not give us the freedom to do these things from the past. Nevertheless, we have to stop all engines, lay about smartly, and drop anchor to pay honor to one of our shipmates going ashore. We honor the years served, the guidance, the leadership, the friendship, and the expertise that this shipmate has freely given for years. For 22 years, this shipmate has stood the watch. While some of us were in our bunks at night, this shipmate stood the watch. While some of us were enjoying the pleasures of home, this shipmate stood the watch. Yes, even before some of us were born into this world, this shipmate stood the watch.